Welcome to RPG Archive. We got a hell of a show today, a spooktacular show. As it is October, we're celebrating Halloween this month. And who better to celebrate something nice and scary than with my good friend JD over at the channel JustJD. JD, how you doing?
I'm well. And yourself, fellow spooky friend?
Ooh. I've been supernatural lately. No, I'm doing great. Really excited to talk about today's game. We're doing Parasite Eve. Yeah.
Vil.
Yeah.
Vil.
Evil.
Two.
Silent.
Hill. Evil.
Parasite Eve! Everyone's favorite horror JRPG. Could you believe they made an RPG out of a horror concept? Wow.
Can you believe they think it's a horror?
Gotta take my turn.
Right? Oh shit. What are they gonna do? Is that a baby?
Oh yeah, that was weird.
A lot of that game's weird. It's okay.
We got an awesome show. There's a lot of cool things to talk about. But you want to talk about your channel real quick? Just tell us what it's about.
I'll give you a quick overview. The intention of the channel. Here, I'll start from this. You boys creatively stifled. You know what I'm saying? Playing and making these videos with you is the ecstasy that drives my body every day. Okay. So I figured, you know what? I gotta stick with that drug. I don't want to say that thing that keeps on giving. So I made a channel. We're going to talk about primarily games in no particular order. It's not genre specific, even though RPG Archive is, and there's no problem with that. It's going to be pretty much off the wall as far as to which games we look at, and we look at them and analyze them more from a more, I guess, philosophical angle, talk about other elements, maybe other inspirations for those games. And other times we'll talk about just the why people enjoy games, what really makes a good game, things like that. It's pretty much video essays is the best way to look at it. The idea right now is Diablo. Still debating. I might actually just do all three at this point and just say fuck it, because that'll be a funnier series of videos.
You almost missed the boat because it's Spooktober is almost over.
Well, Diablo's not scary. It's Diablo's
not scary. The first boss name is the Butcher.
Yeah, and he's a jerk. he's a wuss. Right? That dude's vegan. He doesn't even eat meat. So yeah, he's a hypocrite. But that's the intention. We'll definitely branch out and try other games. Definitely a little bit more in depth than this channel is very in depth, but definitely more in depth than your average video essay of like a 5-minute video about, man, this is why this game is awesome. So if you guys are into that, subscribe. We'll have videos up here shortly post vacay and go from there.
Link to his channels below. I like that you put 2 digs at my channel inside your description of your own channel. Thank you for that.
I did not take digs.
All right, let's get started. So we're talking about Parasite Eve, a classic PlayStation 1 game. Let's talk about the making of. We're going to talk about music first. This game famously has a rockin' soundtrack. And it's done by Yoko Shimomura. You're my guy that's going to correct me on these pronunciations, right?
Yeah, I'm a weeb. Why not?
Thanks.
Thank you.
She composed the game's soundtrack, including the main theme, Primal Eyes, which is, if you do nothing else from this podcast, just download that song and listen and just like put it on your playlist because it's fucking awesome. The ending vocal song, Somnia Memorias, is performed by Shawnee Rigsby, which is a funny name. The score met with great acclaim, using influences from both opera and electronica. Shimomura stated that she tried to compose inorganic music for the game, what she described as something unique. a separate Parasite Eve remixes album, yada yada yada. Okay, whatever. Um, so she did the soundtrack. Hold on.
Then we're back.
Huh. Lost us for a second there. Hold on. Whoa. My video's gone. Turn on camera. What the hell happened? Anyway, something scary just happened. Anyway, we're back, but
You good?
yeah. I don't know. That must have been the ghosts of Parasite Eve that were just
No, that was the Rigsby family.
yeah, the Rigsby. You will respect me. Anyway. Fun. Let's go into the backstory of Yoko. This isn't the bad Yoko. This is Shimomura, not Ono. It's important to separate those. From 1993 until 2002, Shimomura worked for Square, where she composed for a further 8 games. While working for Square, she was best known for her work on the soundtrack for Kingdom Hearts, which was her last game for the company before leaving, starting with Mario & Luigi's Superstar Saga. She has a hell of a track record here. She did Super Mario. She did a lot. I can go over all of them, but she did stuff including Super Mario RPG, Parasite Eve, Legend of Mana, Xenoblade Chronicles. I mean, her list is pretty intense. I got it pulled up here. She did Street Fighter 2: The World Warrior.
Yep.
What is that?
That's the original Street Fighter 2.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm used to this. Okay.
Like the supers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the music doesn't really change from those. Yeah, you got more people though. So like she didn't do like DJ or Fei Long, I guess, because they're in like Super and Turbo and stuff. But still, that's good.
She did Breath of Fire. I'm just trying to pick out the highlights here. Front Mission. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts. People like that music. I hate it.
I mean, Kingdom Hearts does have some good music. I don't like every single song, but like, the Traverse Town battle music, was it Hollow Bastion? Whatever. Some of those places, pretty good, man.
She, with other people, did Final Fantasy 15.
Final Fantasy 15 has some good tracks.
Streets of Rage 4. She composed.
Hell yeah.
She composed Shiva. So one song from it. But I guess that's life of a freelancer. You get to do what you want. So good for her.
She's probably living her best life, man.
Hell yeah. Anyway, I don't know when we're going to be able to talk about her again, but it's very impressive what she's been able to do. So good on you. Next up, a lot of people don't know this, or maybe they do. I'm sure any Parasite Eve fan knows it, but hopefully if you're listening, you're not just a Parasite Eve fan. It was created based off of a novel called Parasite Eve that was released in 1995.
Yes.
Let me pull that book up here.
What's his name?
Hideaki Senna wrote it.
No, not him. What's his name? Not Dr. Clamp, the other scientist.
Maeda, yeah.
Maeda talks about it, actually. That's what my brother was mentioning when he was over, was that he was actually talking about the book. So that's pretty interesting. In the game, it's like meta.
Very meta.
Yeah.
The book was published in North America in 2005. So really in America, if you were just an American player, you'd have no way to know this.
No.
Like you couldn't have read it. I mean, unless you knew Japanese and had the wherewithal to go get it. I mean, basically
Weebs
impossible.
didn't exist then.
But the plot of it is mitochondria are the powerhouse of biological cells. It is thought they were originally, I feel like we're in 9th grade biology. Were originally separate organisms, and a symbiotic relationship between them and early cellular life has evolved into their present position. Yada yada. Oh my god. I was trying to get an easy synopsis here, but it's basically the plot of Parasite Eve. So that's the point. But Parasite Eve is a sequel. In not the distant, well, maybe the distant future. I don't know. But read the book if you're interested. It's just more of this, and they actually, like you said, the game alludes to events that happen within that book and sometimes alludes to the book itself. So that's
Cool
pretty
stuff.
neat. Yeah. Next up, I want to talk about the location. There's a lot of really interesting little tidbits here. During development of the game, Square decided to use New York City as the setting after it had been previously considered, I don't know if you knew this, for use in Final Fantasy VII.
That wouldn't really fly too well. It explains Midgar.
I was gonna ask you about that. Like, is it safe to assume they're talking about Midgar?
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, if we're being honest, they're really shitting on New York. Then if they're comparing it, they're like Shinra fucking sucks, and so does this place. But that's a very interesting thing. I would love to hear more about that, about why they went away from it. I would imagine just the sort of element of fantasy would probably be too much to translate into Final Fantasy VII. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't really copy paste a lot of those elements. Like, what are you going to do about the weapons? You know?
Yeah.
What are you going to do about the meteor? What are you going to do about the freaking what's it called? The ancients place or whatever. Like, what are you going to do about all that stuff? Why do people use swords? And
it's going to be like Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
It's going to be like all this like alternate history crap.
Yeah. It would just it'd be really weird.
You know, I did some reading on it, and they even had Mako reactors in New York. Like, they had that worked out. I mean, obviously it would be in the future.
Did they have Mako poisoning? Then too.
They had
everyone just have green eyes.
Yeah.
Instead of soldier, where they called Marine. Like, come on.
Come on. It made me think of it though. Like, do you think possibly the whole Midgar thing? Because when I was playing, it always felt so disconnected. Like, Midgar was its own thing, and then like a normal Final Fantasy game started after.
Yeah.
Do you think something happened in development where they're like, we can't do a New York. Let's just get out of here, and we don't want to scrap all the assets.
Well, I don't think they could have gotten too far with it. Because there's only so much. New York is great, and if any of our viewers are watching and they're from New York, it's a great place, right? Or it's a beautiful place. But the I guess the scenery of it, like how you would do the scenarios and things like that, they can get sort of old quickly. You know, like I kind of feel like they did winter New York because that's the best time of the year. Or that's a more interesting looking time of year for New York.
Yeah.
With the decorations to offset how plain the buildings are, right?
Yeah.
And or not plain, but how, like, you know, they're just these big, like, bland structures at the end of the day.
50 skyscrapers, you know?
Exactly. You see them and that's all you get. And then you have the snow that's sort of contrasting that. You have the Christmas lights, all that stuff. Like, it presents its own feeling. I definitely, when I was playing the game, I definitely felt that way. Definitely felt like it was Christmas for me, which kind of gives me the vibe that this is a Christmas game. Like, you need to only play this during Christmas.
Is this the Die Hard of Christmas era video games?
Exactly.
Everyone will be debating.
Play this game other time. Yeah, you have to play it when it's freaking December 1st. All right, day 1, day 2, December 2nd. That's it. You solve the shit by the 6th, and you're good to go. All right.
In my reading, there apparently are people dedicated to playing this game on like December 20th or like December 24th, and then they play each day according to the day. Yada yada, which seems cool. Like. Yeah, it seems really neat.
Yeah.
We're saying that sarcastically, right?
No, I think it's cool.
Oh, okay.
There's because they do that in like Dark Souls. They'll have like world reset days where the community actually makes a new character, and then they relive that first sort of, you know, moments, you know, because like everything just it's a melting pot. After a while of playing Dark Souls, you're not going to always be able to invade these new guys or whatever the case is and whatnot. But if people come together as a community and create that stuff, it is kind of cool to see. It's sort of like that movement that's inspired by the community to branch out and do that stuff. I think it's neat. You can think whatever.
Apparently I shit on everything. See, I'll be the negative guy. You're worried you'd be the negative guy. This one, I'll take.
Oh, that. Just wait. Just wait.
All right. Next sentence I found also interesting. Parasite Eve was Square's first game to be rated mature by the ESRB. From Square specifically.
I think it makes sense. When you look at the imagery of the game, and sort of what they do. I mean, even starting off, if we're talking about basics, in addition to people being on fire, and then when you go to the Central Park and like everyone's melting and stuff, like even when you're in the sewers, when the first time you see a rat and the rat transforms, you're asking for it, right? And then that's excluding things like when you're fighting the T-Rex. It's excluding things when you fight all these other monsters that transform and they have a CG sort of accompaniment of introduction to that monster. Yeah, man, I believe it.
What do you think about Square taking a risk on that? Do you think it was time for them, or do you think they let the who we'll talk about in a second, the director? Do you think they're just like, you go for it, man?
I think it's important because, like, I would say Final Fantasy should have been rated mature. Like, the only thing that stopped it was just graphically, you can't show Cloud getting impaled with blood coming out every single time that happened, or Sephiroth when that. No, Cloud got impaled. Sephiroth didn't. Or when Ares dies. Spoilers. But like when any of that stuff happened, like it's no blood. It's really just showing the element or whatever's taking place. I mean, if you look at what's it called now, the remake now, it's mature, isn't it? Rated M for mature. Maybe it's teen. I don't know.
Final Fantasy VII's remake? I have no clue what it's. It's funny when you become an adult, you don't have to look at the rating anymore.
No, it's rated teen. It's rated teen. The remake is rated teen. That's interesting. Yeah, it's just not as grotesque, I would say, as those games. But there are certain elements that can definitely imply like a really, Aerith dying is pretty clear, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing with Dane and Barrett, when they lose their arms, they're holding on to each other and they're hanging from a cliff, and then bullets trace through and shoot both of their hands. They just don't show that there's blood and all this other stuff that happens. So
true.
I guess it's more of like it was due to a limitation that game wasn't mature. I think now with Parasite Eve, they're like, hey, we have more freedom. We could tell this deeper story. And to be honest, it should have been rated M. If it was rated teen with the story that they're trying to tell, I don't think it would have the same.
Ironically, though, it is a very Final Fantasy sounding story.
Yeah,
like that. They do that in a lot of Final Fantasy games. Like his genes have X in them, and that's what makes him so powerful.
They're connecting with me. I'm the only one who can stop him.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Actually.
Apocalyptic storyline. This is what I'm gonna do. The final battle is me versus him.
Well, and the other part of it would be that it seems like, and I couldn't find many notes on this, because usually I go to Shmuplations. They do a lot of retranslations, or not retranslations. They do a lot of translations of Japanese interviews, which is a great site. And that's where I get a lot of my like insider interview detail. There was nothing for this game, like absolutely nothing, which is
I'll do it.
Which is odd because there's a lot of things I want to know from this game. But one thing I just got to assume: Resident Evil released March 22nd, 1996. So you got to think there, and the influences are there. You got to think this was their way of competing with that, or saying like, oh shit, there's a market. Let's do something about that. And then of course you have to go mature if you're gonna do.
You have to.
Your Resident Evil.
Yeah, that's interesting. I definitely believe there's a lot of influence from it. I kind of wonder, because I don't think there's. We said the first Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
When did Resident Evil 2 come out? A year later?
I'm just gonna add a 2 to my search here. Resident Evil 2 came out January 21st, 1998. Although that could be in Japan, but I guess it doesn't matter. So yeah, January 21st, 1998.
I get more of a Resident Evil 2 vibe than I do a Resident Evil 1. vibe. I that's just me.
Mm.
You know, that's only because when we talk about when we talk about Resident Evil 1, we're talking about, you know, just zombies, the mansion, hunters, and stuff like that. Like these real like bio monsters weren't really the focus. It was mainly the zombies, and then yeah, everything else was there too. But like Resident Evil 2, we're talking, you know, the lickers. We're talking the last boss is just a fucking blob. You know, on scenario 1. On scenario B, it's the Neo Tyrant. You know, like that I feel takes a little bit more from it.
Mm-hmm.
But I
also,
definitely think
also 2 would be more like locations in the city, specifically
yeah,
the police department, right? But
yeah, and especially, I mean, at this point, you know, 3 is after Parasite Eve, but you know, that's another one that I would say, like, I think Parasite Eve is more what's the term? Uh, what's the name of that that guy Cthulhu? He did Cthulhu.
shit.
Lovecraftian. It's more
Yeah.
Lovecraftian to me, like with the blobs and everybody turning into things and whatnot. Like that's the vibe I get from Parasite Eve. I feel like they focused more on that element of like, hey, let's just make these guys just turn into the most grotesque versions of themselves and whatnot. I could be wrong, but I feel like the inspiration for Parasite Eve might be lent more towards Resident Evil 2 than Resident Evil 1. I could totally see them doing certain monsters differently based upon what happened with Resident Evil 2. It's not too much of a difference between them. I get that, but I can't help but think it didn't have some influence.
Oh, and maybe they're talking between companies.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
It's not like you only have friends in Square, you know? This is Japan. Like, of course they're talking. Like, how do we get these Western guys to buy our games?
I always wonder that, like, if they're like, because like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy are kind of 1-1 out there. Over here, not so much, but out there they're kind of competing. I just wonder if they're like sharing stuff back and forth, like, hey, we're doing classes. Like, oh, sick. Tell me how it goes.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
It's kind of that steel sharpens steel sort of mentality.
Mhm.
These guys had to be sharing company secrets.
Yeah, because the companies may be competing, but the people don't give a shit.
No,
they're friends. They
wrestling.
probably travel back and forth between each other. Like, oh, I'll go code, I'll debug your thing. You know?
Yeah. Or hey, don't do that. Or hey, we ran into that issue too. Here's what you should do.
Yeah. So I always wonder if they're doing that and just sharing details. Because it's funny, we're going off on a little tangent here, but in Dragon Quest 3, they let you choose classes and choose your own characters at the beginning and pick their classes, just like Final Fantasy 1, which came out around the same time. So I just wonder if they're like, oh, they're doing that, let's do it. And I don't know who's they.
Of course.
But it's one of them.
They! Oh, for sure, dude. Like, without a doubt, these guys, you can't exclude the fact that these guys definitely got together a couple times, hung out, talked about trade secrets or whatever the case is. It's just about making it was probably more of a mentality of like, Japan's the forefront of gaming, so let's communicate with each other kind of thing. At least in that day and age, you know?
Yeah.
So no one could touch Square. Come on.
The last thing to bring up, and it's not that there's not much to say, but it's just I found it interesting, is that a large portion of it was produced in the United States, which makes sense. They do a lot of location shots from New York, so it does make sense.
Yeah, they did a good job of making it very New York-esque with the shots, the architecture, like how everything looks. I mean, it's all pre-rendered, right? So like whatever, right? Yeah. So it doesn't really matter. But I mean, at the same time, it definitely has it took direction to do that. You know, that's like I think it was every time they do an Assassin's Creed, Ubisoft sends the guys out to the area that they would be doing an Assassin's Creed on, at least up until like the most recent ones, and they would have them take photos and things like that. Like when they were doing like Assassin's Creed 2, they were taking photos of modern like Italy and stuff like that to replicate it and to sort of rewind it back to the earlier era. I can't imagine that wasn't the case here. Like a lot of those guys had to be out of New York, sending photos off, talking about just the lifestyle and
Right.
about how even simple things like how the stores are set up. Like I think was it day 3 when you're going through the stores with everybody.
Yeah.
Like even stuff as simple as that. That's different from how Japan has their setup. So ours is more spread out. This is more condensed.
Remember when the ooze took over the Statue of Liberty? That looked like the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, jeez. I think there's a lot of. I think that
I don't have anything as deep as that. I can't.
You have to suspend your disbelief on this game. That's all we're gonna say, folks.
I think it looks kind of right.
You thought a T-Rex was bad. Wait a minute.
Wait until you see. Or get pissed off. The director was Takashi Tokita. Not much to say on it other than he's obviously had a stellar career. This, I believe, is his first directorial. This is a directorial debut. No, he did Live Alive in 1994. He was the director of that. But he's been working for forever. He did. What?
No, keep going. I'm sorry.
He worked on, and these are either on graphic design. He did sound effects, game design, anything. But he worked on Final Fantasy Legend. I'm just doing the highlights. Rad Racer 2. Final Fantasy 3, 4, 5. He's actually the lead game designer for 4, which is impressive because that was a standout. He was Chrono Trigger's director. Oh, okay, I was wrong on the directorial debut already because it was in my favorite game. I was the director of it. How did I miss that? Super fan right here. Scenario writer. For 7, he was the event planner, and then Parasite Eve, he was a director and scenario writer. He was a special advisor on Parasite Eve 2, which we'll talk about. But yeah, he's gone on to do a ton. He did The Bouncer.
Oh god.
It has its fan base, which
I'm part of it.
Oh, okay. I heard your tone, and I said, "Look, there's a thing there."
I had plenty of nights with the multi-tap and playing with everybody on The Bouncer because that game was fucking. It's a trip, man. I need to find a copy of that game again, man.
Hey, your boy Troy should like him. He gets this. Oh, never mind. He just got a special thanks in Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. That's his game.
Oh, I guess. It's been a minute. He would like him from The Bouncer. To be honest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Troy's part of that.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be doing that much these days, but he gets a lot of special thanks. He got one from I Am Setsuna, Final Fantasy Kingsglaive. That was a movie, right?
Yeah, Kingsglaive is a movie. But it's not the best movie, but it's better than Spirits Within. All right.
I won't have you besmirching Spirits Within. Not on this channel.
The best thing about Spirits Within is the thriller dance in the extras on the DVD version. That's it. That movie sucks outside of that.
I've never seen it, so I'll take your word for it.
Hey, it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube? Spirits Within?
Yeah. Well, no, the thriller dance.
Oh, the thriller dance. Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
And you sure you check it out at home, too, after you've, commented and subscribed to this channel. Producer was Hironobu Sakaguchi. How am I doing on these names? Hironobu. Ah, I was close. Sakaguchi is obviously a legendary producer. I got his stuff pulled up here. He's worked on a ton. Started in 1988. Just a lot of games. He did Live Alive, just like our friend Takashi.
Yeah, I keep thinking, is Live Alive that? Live Alive. Is that game? Oh god. Rend Collection did a song.
While you're looking that up, he did Super Mario RPG, Parasite Eve, Legend of Mana, Kingdom Hearts, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. I didn't know he did that. Xenoblade
it's just
Chronicles.
an RPG.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do it on this channel sometime.
Oh god.
But yeah, he's done a ton as well. Final Fantasy 15, Radiant Historia, Perfect Chronology. He does a lot. He's done a lot as well. He's a big name in the RPG scene. So, big deal. Not much to say, though.
Yeah.
You ready to talk about the release?
Yeah.
All right. This game released in Japan on March 29th, 1998. And then September 9th in 1998, it released in North America. Actually, so that means this one, Resident Evil 2 came out January 1998. So you might be onto something there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think you're right. Probably a little.
Now, 97 was a pretty interesting year for gaming in general. We've got Final Fantasy Tactics that came out that year. We have GoldenEye. You've got Tekken 3. You've got Castlevania, Symphony of you get no symphony from me. Symphony of the Night.
Yeah.
Grandia. Mortal Kombat 4. Crash Bandicoot 2. Tomb Raider 2. Wild Arms. NFL Blitz. Doom 64. God damn, that was a stacked year.
Dude, if you look at it, every year is stacked. I think 98 is more stacked.
Well, quite possibly, yeah. I mean, there's a couple other good ones here, like Bushido Blade and Mega Man X4. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, in Hander, that was a very interesting year. I remember playing the demo disc, or playing a demo disc with Enhander and I think Tomba or Kelowna on that, which are both on here, and Alundra is on here as well. Like, god damn, dude. Diddy Kong Racing? What the fuck? Abe's Odyssey? What the fuck? Yeah, man. It's stacked. It's stacked. I hear you though. It probably was more stacked on that other year.
And I actually have some data on that.
Okay.
Sales wise in Japan, it sold 1.05 million units. And in North America, it sold 0.94 million units. With the rest of the world, it grossed a total of 2.1 million units sold. So not bad. Pretty good. Yeah. Comparatively, so if we look at the best-selling video games in Japan, number one, no shame in this, Pocket Monsters, Red, Green, and Blue, Pikachu.
That'll do it.
With 3.3 million in sales.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, Biohazard 2, 2.3 million. Number three, speaking of, Dragon Quest Monsters, Terry No Wonderland, 1.7 million.
Do you have a strap so you could do number 4 and number 5?
A strat?
A strap. You can slam on the ground.
Number 4!
Nice.
Gran Turismo, okay. 1.5 million. Number 5, Tekken 3, 1.3 million. Did it come out at the very end? Or like in the Christmas season? Tekken 3?
Tekken?
Of 97? Didn't you say it was 97?
It was.
So maybe it came out Christmas season. That's why it's counted here.
It came out March 20th. It's interesting.
Weird.
God damn, it got a 9.9 out of 10 from GameSpot. What are you doing, dude? Just give it the 10. What's your problem?
Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters got 1.2 million. That makes me kind of sad. Which edged out our game, Parasite Eve.
Bruh, I don't know what you're talking about. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is fucking fire.
That game sucks.
You suck.
I played that game. I loved Yu-Gi-Oh! And I played that game and knew that game sucked. Parasite Eve is number 7 on the list at about 1 million. Obviously, we went over the numbers above. But
for a new IP, that's not bad at all.
No.
I mean, half of those things already have pre-existing
or
things.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like popular. Yeah.
Yeah, or an advantage. Yeah, Pokemon is also popular, but it's also an advantage of being on a portable system.
I will challenge. Really there are 2 brand new things here, though. Gran Turismo.
Mm-hmm.
So that's impressive. And obviously, number 1, Pokemon.
Well, what came before Gran Turismo? What, Road Rash?
That's what I was good. Like Ridge Racer?
Road Rash. Maybe Ridge Racer.
Ridge Racer was a
And
launch game, wasn't it, on PlayStation?
maybe. And what's it called? And maybe a Need for Speed.
Mm.
But when Gran Turismo was like, hey, we're going to be realistic, that's probably what got people.
You cornered the market.
Yeah, man. That's what I got to do. It's people like licking their initial D lips and just being like, I'm waiting for something good to come out.
This is blowing my mind. Zelda, okay, Tales of Destiny was next. And then number 9 is Zelda no Densetsu Toki no Ocarina. That Ocarina of Time? And did that come out like way late? That came out like way late or something? Because shouldn't that be higher? Shouldn't that be like the number one?
Let's take a gander.
Maybe that came out really late, and then all of its sales are the next year. And then Xenogears wraps out the list.
That came out in 98. Ocarina of Time did.
I know, but late?
November 21st.
Okay. So really late. So maybe a lot of the sales were shoved to the next year. I don't know.
Of 98, though.
No, maybe they were shoved to the year 99. Because that's why they're not. Because I would think Ocarina of Time would beat most of these games in terms of sales. But we'll see. America, it doesn't even top the list. Top 20.
God damn.
Which is interesting. And
it was in my household.
By the way, number 1 is GoldenEye. Number 2 is Zelda Ocarina of Time. In America.
What do you expect? Western.
And then number 3 is
games.
Gran Turismo. Yes, very Western. Banjo-Kazooie, Western. Hell, European. So Western. Super Mario 64. Resident Evil finally makes it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't even get on there, which I find interesting because in Japan, in Japan and North America, they actually sold about the same. 1.05 million in Japan, 0.94 in North America. I guess obviously North America's population is way larger than Japan's. So that probably has a lot to do with the placements there of why they're so disparate, I should say. But I don't know. I always just looked at them as Japan having more gamers at the time. But maybe at this point, America was picking up. Obviously, with PlayStation, it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a Sony country.
Sony Town.
Yeah, Sony Town. Welcome to Sony Town. Right here in Shinjuku, I don't know. But yeah, it's I mean, Nintendo was there. We just talked about, Pokemon, but still it's very diehard Sony over there.
Oh, do you have the date of when Zelda was released in Japan? Specifically? Maybe that was 97. I'm just so baffled that it's so low on this list.
I don't care about the manga, you idiot.
Well, I do. Bookmark that. No, I don't.
Japan, 21st, 98. America, 23rd of 98.
How did this game not sell well in Japan? It's like their bread and butter.
Bro, Western audience, I guess. It's got a blonde hair, blue-eyed main character.
We don't like him. We don't like his kind.
We don't like him around these parts.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Weird. All right. According to Metacritic, Parasite Eve is an 81 out of 100 score. The game was received generally favorably. IGN praised the game for its beautiful graphics and cinematic sequences, as well as its mature tone, but noted, along with other reviewers, the game's linear plot structure. What the hell? Game Informer cited the game's exquisite backdrops, but bemoaned its long load times each time players enter a new environment or engage an enemy. That's weird that they would complain about. That was like the norm back then.
Yeah, you want to talk about long load times? Let's play Bloodborne right when it launched. Let's play Cyberpunk. How about that, there, buddy? We'll talk about long load times then. But no, yeah, that was very normal to me. Like that was very tolerable for me to go through. Granted, there were some times where I was like, "Fuck, I missed something," and then it would hit me. But for the most part, if you're just exploring an area, no. I mean, I was doing other stuff too, so I'd like have something on at the time. So maybe it wouldn't have distracted me that much, but still, it was fine.
Yeah. Yeah, generally well liked. You ready to talk about the game?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get into it. The plot of the game. The player takes on the role of Aya Brea. Sounds like eyebrow. An NYPD
Zingers
rookie
over here.
attending an opera at Carnegie Hall with a blind date in New York City on Christmas Eve 1997.
Mm.
During the opera, everyone in the building spontaneously combusts, as they do, except for Aya, her date, and an actress on stage named Melissa Pierce. Aya confronts Melissa on stage, and Melissa says that Aya's mitochondria need more time to develop. I just love that idea. But anyway. Oh, you get off the stage. Yeah, your mitochondria needs more time to develop, bitch.
I'll see you later. I'll see you at Central Park, fucker.
She flees backstage with Aya giving chase. Backstage, Melissa then mutates into a beast and flees into the sewers, declaring that her name is now Eve. That's the opening plot of the game. By the way, if you haven't played the game, we're going to spoil the shit out of it. So if you want to play it, go do it. The plot, I usually find these games to have a complicated, because this plot's very science based.
Yes, it is. God, Dr. Clamp, shut up.
If you didn't know, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Oh God.
You might be reminded of that a couple times in this game.
What?
And usually with science jargon, I tune out. I'll be the first to admit it. I don't usually understand it. But this game, while it does bring it up probably more than it should, I was generally able to follow it. I did need a quick recap after, but I was kind of able to follow the story, which is a rarity. So good job on them for at least making something that makes sense.
Well, I mean, in that sense, and what they were talking about the review about it being a streamlined plot, a linear plot isn't a bad thing. First of all, any plot in that era is linear.
That's what I was thinking. Like, what did you just come off somehow playing Knights of the Old Republic and you had a question about this?
You playing fucking Fable over here? Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, well, I mean, Fable's not a good example, but you know what I mean? Like, no, everything was like that.
Yeah.
Why aren't you shit talking Pokemon? What's the fucking plot?
Yeah, right?
Like, seriously. And to that extent, like, when you're talking about, like, hey, I was actually able to follow along with it, I didn't know what the fuck happened in Final Fantasy VII until years later.
Mm-hmm. I
watched my brother, dude, right? That doesn't mean your story is so complex. That means you have a problem conveying your story.
Yeah, right.
If it's a trend, right? It wasn't just me. It's not just you. Plenty of other guys and gals that played that game have voiced the same concerns. Wait, it's not. What about Zach? Like all that shit. Yeah, dude, I'm sorry. If you can make a simple plot or make it just flow, which this game does have, for the most part, good pacing, right? Everything usually flows. Fuck it. Who cares? So long as your story gets told and people can digest it, it's not boring. It's very simple, but it's still satisfying.
I think it fits into the same mold as like a Resident Evil story.
Yeah.
Like you have a general weirdness that happens at the beginning and then it slowly divulges who the villain is and why they did it and what's going on.
Very Resident Evil-y.
And that's there's nothing wrong with that. I really don't understand the linear plot thing. Even in today's, games where they're a little bit more open. Like I still, The Last of Us is still probably the best story I've ever seen in a game. Mm. Like to me, I can't think of maybe Metal Gear Solid 3, but in general, like those, and they're very because if you're gonna tell a story the way you want, it has to be linear. Like you can't, you can't just let the player change everything, or else you're not gonna tell the story anymore. Which is fine, but it's not a linear. Like it's not the same thing.
Right. Imagine if you're playing Knights of the Old Republic and you could be like, by the way, you could choose to not be Revan. Oh, look how open-ended we are.
Yeah.
Fuck you, dude. It's going to always come that way. You're always going to fight Malik at the end. Like, who cares? Maybe suspend your disbelief, jackass. What the fuck?
Right. It is based off of a book. Like, how linear could you get?
Right? Didn't really like that Lord of the Rings game followed the book.
He only likes the goosebumps that let you choose your own adventure.
Right? Those were pretty hype. I'm not gonna lie. But yes, you are correct. You are correct.
It's so silly.
Oh man.
What you think of the 6 days concept?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
It's very good to be able to one, it was very easy for me to pace.
Yeah,
but two,
that helped a lot.
It was also very like it's okay to say like to have a structure that's going to have an end. One way or another, it ends on this day, kind of a thing. So like when I talked to my brother about it, he's like, at first he kept telling me it was 5 days. And I was like, oh, okay. And
It's
then he's
easy
like,
to
no,
think
it's actually
that because it's the 6 day is kind of like a whatever.
it just merges in. Yeah. You're like, oh shit. Okay, cool. But yeah, like that whole concept is nice because like you don't want a game to overstay its welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk a little bit more about that, but you don't want a game to overstay its welcome. So that kind of works out in its favor to be like, hey, this is going to end by this day. Look how far you are now. Like you have made progress. It's a little bit, it feels good, you know, so I like it.
Although day 5 is very long.
2 parts. Fucking whack, man. Fucking hated day 5. I was like, fuck these sewers, dog. Get me out of here. Chinatown, no.
No. Day 5 was oh yeah, day 5 was Chinatown and the museum.
Yeah, towards the end of the museum, yeah. Fuck. Dude, those fucking pterodactyls. I definitely had the wrong weapon.
I had some mixed feelings on the whole days concept, but I think some of it comes in the difficulties of combining a JRPG with horror.
Mhm.
Is like usually horror is best to me when it's really confined, and it's not given time to explain, which this game breaks that rule easily. But I get it because it's a JRPG. But it also like part of me is like it might have been scarier if we didn't have days, and it could be a little more like you didn't know when it was going to end or what was going on.
When will this nightmare end?
Yeah, because it's like, oh, like when will this nightmare end? It's like 6 days. We told you at the beginning. Like, oh, right.
You'll find out.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Put
it on my calendar.
Right. I'm gonna kill this bitch. Write it on the 6th day.
So that part I'm like, but it doesn't like hurt the game. It's just I think horror is better suited in a lot more mystery.
If we're gonna talk about the genre, that is a point that I had. Is I think they are 2 genres that are polar opposites, and I don't think they should have been combined.
Yeah,
personally, because if we're talking about what you're saying, horror is about a level of mystery. I just saw a rat transform. Like, why can't I just like delve into like what's causing these rats? Like, why can't I have a bit of a storyline in the sewers where, you know, I'm seeing all these rats running and all that other stuff, and you're like, oh man, that's so crazy. Or you're following this rat and it's behaving erratically, and then I don't know, suddenly large monsters show up, and you're like, oh man, what's going on, or whatever. Like some element of mystery. Everything just gets explained to you. So on the basis of an RPG, which is fine. But that contrasts horror. They don't ever tell you why freaking Michael Myers can catch up to you.
In good horror, we should state that, because there is horror where they do and it sucks.
If we're talking good horror,
like Alien,
can't talk. Yeah, we're pretty much going to the 70s. We're talking good horror because we're not talking really slashers. Not all slashers, anyway. But yeah, like if we're talking about Alien, yeah, they perfectly capture what's going on in the sense of like isolation. You are trapped in space, essentially. This guy has every advantage in the world. It feels like a real threat, right?
Well, an Alien is a genius title because it's alien in the truest sense that you literally don't. It's foreign. You don't know what it is, and that's what makes it scary.
Yeah, I think aliens stop being scary the minute they're like, these are xenomorphs.
Yeah. As soon as you name it, it's done. It's like, oh, it's a xenomorph. Okay.
This is Tim.
Yeah.
This fucking Rat King. You know, like, fuck off.
Right.
No thanks.
So that I think you're right in that completely counters what a JRPG is. Because JRPGs, the whole point is story. And the whole point is knowing things about the character and knowing especially in that time.
Mhm.
And it's just like in that juxtaposition, they don't really work. Not as a game, but I think what hurts most is the horror part of it, because this game is not scary.
No, I was going to ask you, did you feel scared at any point in time of the game?
No, I was kind of like creeped out in like a weird way, like a thing way, but never was I like Resident Evil. I feel a sense of dread. In this game, I actually like farmed things and like purposefully got in combat just so I could raise my Parasite Eve, whatever, level up.
Yeah, man. Trying to get some more mod permits, man. What are you talking about? Like, so I don't care.
It kind of turned into like The Walking Dead almost. Like where like the first season it's pretty good and they're like you're like scared of the zombies because they're a threat and you're like, oh my god, who's gonna die next? Yada yada yada. But it's not that. It's not the first season Walking Dead. It's the 9th season Walking Dead.
Where the fuck is Negan?
Yeah, where they're chaining him up and like leading him around and like playing with them and stuff. That's what it turned into. And that's not scary.
Humans are the real monsters.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's not to shit on The Walking Dead. I actually still like it, but
my girlfriend likes it. I think it's okay, but it's definitely not scary.
No, it's definitely not. No, that shit ran out by I think season 5 for me. Then I was like, all right, this is definitely nothing scary. They don't even do the zombies coming from behind you and it only comes in through this speaker and saying
they don't
kind of thing. That's gone. But whatever. Anyway, all that to say is, yeah, the game's not really scary, but it's like branded as this sort of survival horror thing. I remember talking to you before we started playing this game, like, oh, you got to save your bullets, and then I realized my brother was using a submachine gun half the time. That's why he had to save his bullets, because he's running out of ammo every 5 seconds. Like, no, you're fine. Get a rifle. You're good on day 2. Get a pistol on day 3. You're good. You're fine. Like, you know.
Oh, the pistol, the one you get, the triple shot pistol. That was my jam for like a good chunk of the game. Maybe like the second half until I got one that fired 6 bullets instead of 3.
Did you mod the what's it called on it? From the M870? M870, I think, the shotgun, because it has burst fire, and you can put that onto the M11 M911A1, whatever, and that thing is just perfect. That's day 5 or 4 or whatever. That's the only thing that saved my life. I was fucking dying, dude.
Never figured out how to mod anything.
I didn't know it until my brother talked to me about it.
Like the game mentioned it, and then I talked to like one of the people, and they're like, "Nah, you can't do that." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
You have to have the mod permit in your inventory when you go up to it.
Oh, there's like a permit somewhere that you get?
Yeah, they give it to you on day 1.
Oh, and maybe I just put it in like a thing or something?
Yeah, you probably put it away. I mean, you don't have that much inventory space when you start, which is a nice feature. I do like that. Yeah. But when you start collecting junk, you're like, fuck.
Yeah. Buy junk.
I know what junk's for.
I know you need it for like the X game, right? But
the end game, going over to the Chrysler building when you're doing New Game Plus, yeah.
But yeah, I was like, I'm not doing that, so fuck this. So
can't blame you.
It's a shame. We'll talk more about that in a second, because there's some stuff I want to touch on there. Let's talk about the characters real quick. Not a lot. I mean, we have Aya Brea. I have a list here which is really shitty, so I apologize for that. But it's Aya Brea. She's our heroine. Whenever I say heroin, I think of like the drug.
And dog. Want to talk about
Nah.
it? I'll just take another shot.
We got Daniel Dulles.
Yeah.
Who, don't take this the wrong way, is he the Barrett? is he just like Barrett?
You didn't realize when he came in and punched Dr. Clamp? I was like, that's Barrett.
Yeah, I know. I was like, it's just
modern day Barrett.
Which I love Barrett, so it works. But
Aya's Cloud, without a doubt, for sure.
No doubt. Yeah. Absolutely. That's
Eva
funny.
Sephiroth.
I mean, Barrett's always in my final party, so I had no issues with that. Granted, he's not this guy. Daniel Dulles isn't really in your party per se because you're a one-man wrecking crew.
He is an MVP though for the last season.
Oh, that reminded me of the other guys. Do you ever see the other guys?
I got it.
Yes. I was kind of laughing.
There goes my
Go for the bushes.
You got it. It just.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
It was a great scene, ruined by future things they couldn't plan for.
Oh man.
Hans Klomp is just kind of your villain in a way.
Yeah.
Maeda, who's the scientist opposed to Hans Klomp. He actually helps you.
Yep.
Melissa Pierce, who's the host. The host.
Yeah.
Maya Brea is your sister, and then you got your villain, Mitochondria Eve. Which Mitochondria Eve is the name of the woman in Africa who's like the first woman. Isn't that who that is?
Yeah.
Supposed to be?
Yeah. Where it could trace back the single,
The DNA of the mitochondria.
To a woman in Africa.
See, that's great. I can actually kind of understand the story. Props to them. Usually in these RPGs, I don't know what the fuck. I just go, okay.
Props to them.
Materia.
Oh,
I'll take it. And then I like that Ultimate Being is listed as a character.
Mm. It's just like, oh, you know him. It's Ultimate Being.
The most
very Lovecraftian by that point.
Yes.
Yeah. Like he hates babies.
Let's talk about some of these gameplay elements. The combat. A lot of weird grabs from different things. You got an active-based battle system. Actually, a lot from... And this makes sense now, knowing he was working on Chrono Trigger, but a lot of things from Chrono Trigger are in this that nobody really talks about. It's got the active battle system. It has combat that takes place in the exact place that you're in. Like, the camera doesn't change. It just happens. I mean, you don't usually see your enemies, but still, it just kind of happens on the same screen, which is impressive. In this one, you get to move around.
The combat in this game reminds me of a game that came out much later on, Vagrant Story. Very much so, with like you can hit certain body parts, time stops, that kind of thing or whatnot. Main character being Ashley.
Some blonde chick. Yeah.
No, it's a guy. His name's Ashley. Oh, but yeah, like it broke my heart to realize that just now that game came out in 2000. but yeah, like stuff like that where they have like this really like ATB focused and then suddenly very tactical side to it is interesting. You have a resource that constantly refills your PE gauge.
I don't know what I think about that.
I'm okay with it because I did use the focus shot a bunch. I also did was it Liberation, which is very like OP good.
When did you get Liberation?
Luckily in time for the last fight, because if I didn't have that weapon or if I didn't have that skill, I would not have beaten the game. I was gonna text you yesterday. I was up until like 3 playing this game.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's bad because I was told last day should be easy, and then first form, what's her name, picks you up, and she does that blast you. She does like 3 or 4 blasts, and I was dead, and I don't have revives. So, but you can imagine my fun playing that game.
Oh my god, you're gonna get so mad.
What, barrier?
No. A lot of the armors have an auto heal system.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Most of them do. And they'll take whatever potion you have and use it to heal you if you die. It's basically like a...
Oh, I didn't have that many potions anyway. Like I didn't spend anything on inventory slots. I spent it on ATB.
That's funny. That's what I did until chapter 5.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, I have no room for potions and I know it's going to be a boss rush.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, we're switching the strat.
Let's change directions. Yeah, man, I was fucked. I honestly was about to call you and be like, or not call you, it's 3:00. Just be like, dude, I can't beat the game. But stubborn old me won't allow it. And I had to be up at 7:00 today, so that was
Oh my god, you need to sleep.
but I'm good. But yeah, dude, I literally thought I put myself into so I had no other states like further back.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I put myself into a corner, but I managed to beat it. But yeah, good times. Fucking love it. My boss whipped my ass.
I mean, it does have the general RPG elements of like leveling up. You can farm, but you have to be very careful with how you do it. You have to find mobs that you know are going to drop ammo, or else you're going to be at a deficit. If you like mobs that give ammo, you're at a surplus.
Oh man, like through the roof. When I was in day 2, like the first couple of mobs were like, because you only had like 15 bullets when you go into Central Park. First couple of mobs, I'm like, dude, I'm empty. I'm using the club. And then I started getting a shit ton of fucking ammo. And then I realized I have a rifle. I should probably use it. And next thing you know, we're picking up.
Yeah.
And then that's how you have to play the game. Is like, it may not be too obvious what the best weapons are. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know myself. I definitely didn't use an SMG. I didn't use grenade launcher or anything like that. I stuck with rifles or pistols, but I made sure those guys were heavy hitters. If it was a burst, cool, I guess. I was about conserving ammo personally. But I come to find out a lot of people use the MPK5 or MP5K, right?
What's that?
Submachine gun. Because it puts ice. It has an ice modifier on it or whatever. You can put an ice modifier on it, and people speed run the game with that. Apparently.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's random. It shoots whoever,
right.
but man, you're just murdering people.
But if you stay in the middle and just go shoot it, it'll kill everything. Freeze everything.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah.
It's genius.
So love hearing about that when I'm like, it's 1, not in my inventory.
I can't make it.
And 2, I'm on day 6. So fun times. I literally Googled best weapon in Parasite Eve. It was bad, man. It's rough.
I had one sticking point where I was like, this might be a no-go. Because I got nervous because I wasn't upgrading my weapons.
Yeah.
And it was like, I jumped to a guy because I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I can't. It was in the sewers on day 5. Everything was clean up until day 5. And then day 5, I hit the sewers. And there was that. It got to the point up into fighting the crab. It got to this point where I couldn't like get through a mob.
Damn, Doug.
Without dying. I was using a rifle. And then
the SG550?
Dude, you're gonna throw out names of rifles? I don't know the names.
There's very few rifles.
I don't know the names of any of the guns, except for there's a rocket launcher.
God. So the M16 you get, that's the first rifle when you are on day 2. The next rifle you get is when you clear out the police station, and you get the SG550. That works all the way up to day 4, but you can modify it for day 5 if you want to. I switched the M1911A1, which is a pistol, but that's one I put burst fire on. So
yeah. I was on day 5 and I switched to a pistol and just fought my way through to the boss. And that was the only boss I was like, man, I just got to use major skill to get through this. Because I had 2 healing items. 2 revives, actually. No healing items. Just 2 revives. Shit. And I tripped my way through that and eventually got through it. And on the way back, because I'd used my 2 revives just to beat that guy, the crab. On my way back, I had half health, no Parasite Eve power, because that's what I already used, and it wasn't getting me into any combat, and no healing. So I had like 150 health, and there was enemies there that both their moves, if they hit me with 2 moves, it would do 80 damage. And I retried it like I swear to God 10 times.
God
Just
damn it.
I would get killed just walking up to the enemies because they were like the spiders that shoot the webs.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you step on a web, even though you haven't like,
Your ATB slows down so much, man.
I was getting fucked so bad. And then I switched to rocket launcher and cleared them out, which was
There you
like,
go,
this
man.
has got to be the biggest waste of this weapon. But for some reason, right after that, it was just completely smooth sailing. I didn't have any other problems.
Yeah, the M1911A1 helped me out on day 5. That it was pistol. It's the only thing I needed. You put the burst on it, you're good to go. I beat the game with that weapon. But
well, no. You beat the game with that move.
well, you know what I mean.
I
don't always have access to PE, all right?
Liberation, that's where the game ends, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'll tell you this. I'm like, dude, it really sucked because after that attack's done, you're just like, please don't grab me.
Yeah.
Don't hit me, please. Please run away. Oh
yeah, that's the move. You're like, all right, I do not move. Cutscene.
Yeah, Knights of the Round plays. You know? I was like, thank God. And then, like, I swear to God, slow doesn't do shit. Because I kept trying to do that to be like, all right, that's how I'm going to set this stuff up. No, it wasn't working. It didn't feel like it was working anyway. But that brings me to another point. Why does she run so fucking slow?
Because they want you to use haste.
It doesn't match her fucking. It doesn't match her animation.
Yeah.
She runs. It doesn't match. Even if she's not in combat, that shit pisses me off how slow she runs. I was talking to my brother about it. He's like, well, the game's designed to be claustrophobic. I was like, no, the game's just pissing me off.
Did you run? Not supposed to run that. Did you use the control pad?
No, analog.
And you still thought it was too slow? I thought it was a little slow. I thought it was slow, like Chrono Cross slow. I thought it matched that gate.
I mean, like when you're in combat, it's really slow. Like when I'm trying, especially when you fight Shiva. I wasted 4 revives on Shiva.
I think I did
that
too.
Is smoking the shit out of me, and I was just like, dude, I'm seeing these attacks. Let me move out of the way. But no, I've got the biggest hurt box in the game, and
that's
like legit.
Yeah,
you could. you'll be here, and then they'll attack and very, very clearly attack and stop in front of you. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck, man? This is so dumb. And then if you run into them, you take damage. I'm like,
I think this game needs a remake because there's a lot of those little things that they could do so much better now. And they could really be like clearly show you what like the damage is going to look like, what the attack looks like. Because it's very not accurate in this game. Like when they would shoot in like the 3, like it was the rats, I think, shot in 3 directions, like fire. I knew where to stand. It wasn't like you're blowing my mind or anything, but I would stand in the right spot, but I would still get hit. Yeah. Maybe it just wasn't clear or something.
It's the angle, the camera angle.
Yeah, the camera angle screwed me. But yeah, it was dumb. Like it felt cheap. It didn't feel like I was dying correctly, as it were.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the ending of this game, which basically means we're going to talk about the story of this game. Is everything all right? Is your cat going crazy?
No, my neighbors are having sex.
Oh, sick. Put the mic on your wall and let's hear it.
God damn, that's gross. Anyway, keep going.
Are they into some nasty shit?
Dude, it was fucking thumping through my headphones. Like,
damn. They're going to fall through the wall. They're going to fall through the ceiling and we're going to have to say hi to them.
Yeah, right. What do you think about Parasite Eve?
Yeah, it was all right. We're going to head out.
Yeah, I got to clean up. Anyway.
So throughout your journey, by day 5, Eve has become this horrifying monster and is this big blob monster and basically is just on a rampage throughout New York, which has been evacuated. And the government realizes...
No, hold on. First, she's preggers first.
Right.
And then she becomes that weird fucking nasty.
Yeah. She becomes pregnant.
I was like, because she's at the sperm bank, dog. It's so gross.
Yeah. I wonder what, like, Bradley she got. She's just going through the days like, who do I want the ultimate being that will change humanity? And she like picks up the first vial. It's like Zachary. Like, oh.
Yeah.
No.
Hope he can cut it. God damn. Just doop.
Reese? No.
Reese.
Oh.
No, thank you. Jamal? No.
Try again.
Yeah.
Well, that would be the most accurate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, she gets
Great
pregnant
basketball.
because because she's trying to propagate the next species, which is kind of interesting. That's the mitochondria realizing that basically the story here is that the mitochondria is a living, breathing organism that's just been using humans as a host and trying to get them to the point where they can then separate and take over, which is played upon interestingly because you could argue humans are that for other things. It creates a nice philosophical question for the audience.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's a lot of. Is that a trend with Square? They always do that. The ultimate being kind of thing. If we're talking Final Fantasy VII, the Ancients, that kind of thing. Genova. Like, I feel like that's Resident Evil, technically, Wesker. That's, I don't know. The next step in human evolution is just such a. I get it wasn't overplayed. It wasn't a trope then, but God, am I sick of it now? Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's probably why I don't like the last couple of days.
The government realizes that they can't do anything to Eve because they all explode. They get too close.
Send fucking missiles and choppers and everything after.
So they send after. By the way, those cutscenes were fucking badass for the time too.
Yeah.
Like, god damn.
You want to explain to me? You want to explain to me how a disgruntled NYPD cop is able to fucking fly a helicopter though?
It's on autopilot.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
They said it was on autopilot.
Okay, and then she's able to jump out with a parachute and everything.
That's on her. She probably.
Yeah, of course it is on her.
Aya is a thrill seeker. All right, that was in her bio. You didn't read, but I read.
First of all, it's on autopilot is the most bullshit excuse ever.
Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse than that because when she flew it in, they flew her in with like 4 other people who were not on autopilot, right?
Who all died.
Who all died and told her your autopilot was designed with the attack pattern in mind to put you behind us, so we'll take the hits. Okay. Question. Could those helicopters also have been on autopilot?
Yes.
Like, why did they die for that?
The reason why I say that's not autopilot, because that's not how autopilot works. It doesn't perform the maneuvers for you, jackasses. God. I don't know.
It was 90s stupid horror. Like, I'm cool with it. It's stupid, but it's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
So she flew on autopilot, shot a nuke. Didn't they say it was a nuke?
Yeah.
Because it didn't blow up like a nuke.
Nope.
Nuclears they leave a mushroom cloud, am I right?
They leave a couple things, including radiation.
Yeah. It would have been uninhabitable for forever.
Yeah.
Like
if they are at sea when this happened, to point out to the audience. So if the fallout, everything, the next day people would not be back at Carnegie. Let me just tell you.
Yeah, 5 days later.
Evacuated, quarantined. Nature will retake New York and we'll be back in like 50 years. That's what should have happened. Whatever.
The ending is very stupid 90s. Is what it's stupid 90s action flick. It basically becomes that, which all horror movies eventually devolve into that, mostly. So it's maybe it was like a funny nod to it or like a tongue in cheek, but it definitely had that feel of like, let's shoot the nuke at the blob. And then they did it. And then eventually you fight it 1-on-1 because only you can. And it's a pretty gnarly fight. Let me see. The next day, so that's day 5. You think it's all over, but day 6, the baby comes out because the baby was actually born underneath all the goop, and the baby comes out and starts blowing shit up, and you realize it's coming after you, and so everybody else leaves, and you fight it on the carrier ship. And
You were right the first time.
what is it? The carrier?
It's carrier, yeah.
Oh, okay, on the carrier, and you fight him in another pretty difficult battle, but it becomes really depressing at the end when like you've really killed him and he's just this like pathetic thing that like crawls on the ground after you. I thought that was a really nice touch. It might have been the most awkward I felt in the game, which is
I killed a baby.
Yeah, I killed a little baby. But it was cool. It was definitely not what I expected. I expected to end on like a high note, and it ended on this like really sad thing where you just lead it around and it follows you, but it can't do like it's just very slow. And then you just blow it up in the ship and jump out. So
talk about an overbooked finish. There's a bunch of interference, there's a bunch of run-ins, the NWO show up.
This was worse than Starcade.
That was like by the time I was like wrapping up, and this was a complaint I had, and I was talking to my brother about it, is I feel like it's just a gauntlet thrown at you at the end. Like I get it, you're supposed to fight Eve, but why do I have to fight her so many times? And then why do I have to fight the ultimate being? And then why do I have to do some stuff after it? Like it's just, I don't know. I didn't enjoy that because that's also in Resident Evil.
Okay. Because I was fine
like,
with it, but yeah, I could see if other people are already doing it.
For perspective's sake, right? Resident Evil 8, right? And I won't spoil it, don't worry. But Resident Evil 8 has a after you beat a certain boss, stuff happens, and then you're playing from a different perspective as another group of people doing this huge gauntlet of fighting monsters and all that other stuff, right? And fighting all these really hard guys and stuff like that. Different ammo, different equipment, you have all that stuff, right? After you do that, you make your way to this other area, and then the perspective shifts back, and then you're supposed to fight another main boss person when that boss was supposed to be fought by somebody else at that point. It's just like, God, why is just boss after boss after boss? Like, I'm trying to think how 7 ended. 7 was simple, right? 6, don't even talk about 6. 5, overblown because it's Wesker. 4, overblown. 3, yes. How many times you fight? 3 is the best example. How many times you fight Nemesis? Like I think 5 times, maybe. And by the time the last time you fight him, he is a blob, and you have to beat him with a rail gun, which isn't even in your inventory. Like you have to lure him into an area and press a button for it to explode. Like at that point, I think it just gets too much. Then that's a common horror trope. I feel I don't like it. Don't do that. You could do a better job. I don't know. Whatever. Ran over.
I was okay with it, but I also don't play horror games, so I don't have that. I'm not as jaded, as it were.
JD'd.
This is from the wiki. After the events of the game transpire, Aya and her friends go to the opera at Carnegie Hall again. During this time, Aya communicates with the entire audience's mitochondria, and their eyes begin to glow a pinkish red. The meaning behind this ending is ambiguous. One theory is that it is what Eve meant when she told Aya, the more you use those powers, the more you become like me. It is possible this Carnegie Hall ending scene is non-canonical due to the events of the X game, which the player can receive to prematurely end the game, though it is presumed that the events of the rest of the game continue. I have to ask, because we're about to start talking about it, but I know we don't we don't like it, but there is a Parasite Eve 2. Is that based on the events of this ending?
I'm checking.
Oh, do we not? Oh, you didn't play it?
No, my brother played it. I didn't play it.
Okay, so you don't necessarily know the story per se.
No, but it takes years. It takes place 3 years after the first game. It wouldn't make sense for her, and she's in the FBI now. Wouldn't exactly make sense for her to be controlling people, and then suddenly that happens. I never took it that way, by the way, as it being ambiguous. I took it as she became Eve. And I also, after, like, because my brother was going through the Chrysler Tower, when I texted him about it, he said he stopped at like floor 40 something, because you had to farm for junk. You had to get 300 junk before you could start getting some of these items, and that would involve you running back and forth between where you were at and the police station, and turning the junk into Garcia. And he knew about the ending because one of our friends had done it, and he was like, "Yeah, that makes the most sense." And he told it to me, and I'm like, "Yeah, that makes the most sense." The ending for the Chrysler building makes more sense.
Okay.
As far as to
considering there's a sequel and everything,
you can say it's like overblown, like the overblown ending of what's it called happen of Parasite Eve, with all these people dying, attacking the police station, sperm bank, the ultimate being, all of that stuff. But like, if we're being honest, like, if they're really like their genes are connected or whatever, and Aya's turning into this being that's like what's it called? Eve. It makes more sense that she's rapidly becoming that. So she's rapidly also getting stronger. I don't know about the whole gun thing, because that wouldn't make sense. Like, suddenly she has access to rocket launchers and she's part of the NYPD and it's just day 2. But at the same time, going up the like, I can buy that she goes to the Chrysler building. Yeah. And she's like, I am drawn to this area and I don't know why. And then she's climbing the floors just off this weird impulse, and until she finds something. It's obviously poking at her in the story regardless what's up there. So it's like, oh, it makes sense, so I never considered that ending as canonical. I considered that as a bad ending, because I just assumed she became Eve. So,
I kind of like that ending.
That she becomes Eve?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I generally like science fiction to have dark endings.
Well, most horror
I like fantasy endings to have happy endings, but I like science fiction to be more like a dark look.
I don't think this is science fiction.
I mean, it's pretty heavy science.
It's not science fiction.
You believe that the mitochondria have their own DNA and they're gonna take over the world?
First of all, you don't. No, I think it's just horror, but I would say though, horror tends to have bad endings.
Yeah,
that's how you create a franchise. I mean, you can look at Saw. You could look at Saw. You can look at the first Jason movie. How they end. It's very much to set up a sequel. So,
I'm going to go over just really quickly what happens in the X Game Chrysler building. EX Game means, I don't know, that's the new game plus.
Special, I think, is what they call EX.
EX Game ending is an alternate way to end the game on a new game plus. Aya ascends the Chrysler building, where powerful NMCs around the city have gathered. On the 77th floor, Aya discovers a cocoon containing what seems to be the body of her deceased sister Maya. Maya claims she is the original Eve, seems impossible, and explains to Aya that Clamp cultivated the cells of the original Eve in Maya's body to analyze. That makes more sense. When Melissa was giving birth to the ultimate being, the original Eve created a nest there using the NMCs in the building to protect it. In case Melissa and the ultimate being failed, the purebred would remain. The original Eve lets Aya speak with her sister through her body. The reunion ends when Eve's consciousness dominates Maya. Aya holds Eve at gunpoint, angering her, and they engage in battle. After the purebred is defeated, the mitochondria inside Aya begin to rebel against Aya. Aya's mitochondria have now reached a higher evolutionary stage than Maya's, but Maya's personality has suddenly become dominant and begun to fight off the Eve persona. Maya eventually wins, purging the Eve persona from herself, protecting Aya by preventing the original Eve from taking her over. Aya loses her mitochondrial powers but comes to terms with her sister's death. Aya claims her body is back to normal before Eve came along. However, this directly contradicts Parasite Eve 2 and the third birthday, which shows that Aya still possesses them, meaning that this scenario may be non-canon or that her powers have returned over time. Aya leaves the building by herself, saying it's time for her and Maya to return home. So that's yeah.
That sounds like to me. What's the nicest way to put this? It sounds like poor planning. That's really what it is.
It sounds like we have no intention of making a sequel.
Yes.
Like, oh, this game did pretty well. Like, make a sequel. I said, what?
Yeah.
It ends in 2 different ways, and they said, I don't know.
You want to play a blonde-haired girl again? Okay, well, she's gonna go to Nevada this time instead. Okay, cool. Have fun.
Knock yourself out as long as they're shooting.
Shoot the bad guys. Good money.
It would seem to me that the original ending is the correct ending. If in this ending she loses her powers, and then there is a 2 where she does have her powers. That being said, we should also not assume that they intended to make a sequel.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Don't try and muscle in the narrative.
That's tough because there is a sequel. It's just nobody seems to care for it, and nobody seems to even almost like acknowledge them, especially further than 2.
Oh God, yeah. No.
Let's talk about that a little bit. The legacy of this game. Usually it's exciting because the legacy, like you learn about the cool things that they were able to do afterwards. It just seems like the series. I mean, if you call it a series, just plummeted after this. Parasite Eve 2, which I haven't heard a lot about. It's generally not received as well as Parasite Eve 1. From what you tell me, it sounds like they got rid of a lot of the RPG elements.
Yeah, it became more horror. Survival horror.
But is it done poorly, or you just...
I'd have to play it again with today's lens. Or not play it again. I'd have to play it with today's lens.
I see.
I remember I was mentioning this to you. I kept telling you there's a worm boss in the subway. There's a worm boss in the subway. There's a worm boss in the subway. There is a worm boss in the subway. It's not on this game.
Oh.
So I was merging them together. So whoops. But yeah, there's a lot of hate for the second one. Just because it sort of drifts. But
okay.
There's not much.
Well, if there's a lot of hate for Parasite Eve 2,
yeah.
What about Parasite Eve 3?
No one knows it exists.
Now, I'm confused because I typed in Parasite Eve 3. I have them listed separately, but is it the third birthday? Is that Parasite Eve 3? Okay. Third birthday is I'm reading this off of Wikipedia, is a third-person role-playing shooter co-developed by Square Enix's first production department and Hexadrive, and published by Square Enix for the PlayStation Portable. It was released in Japan in 2010 and North America and Europe in 2011. The game is both the third entry in the Parasite Eve video game series, based on the Japanese novel, and a spin-off, having only a loose connection to events from past games. The game features a third-person shooter-based combat system with role-playing mechanics. The key mechanic is the overdrive ability, which allows the player to possess pre-positioned human allies and inflict damage upon enemies. Reception. It actually scored pretty well. Its Metacritic is 71 out of 100.
Yeah.
Let's see what I got here. There's a lot of reading.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at gameplay footage for it. It reminds me of Dirge of Cerberus.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of how it looks. It's just too actiony. And granted, if they do the game again, they are gonna focus more on an action-oriented version of it, right? Like Final Fantasy VII Remake, if that's anything to go off of, this would absolutely fit that script. But I
challenge you on that because what about Resident Evil 2 remake?
Well, give me a second.
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna go there.
Okay,
stealing my shit. But that would be more inclined for like a sequel. for it, because the sequel, it's a little bit faster, things like that. Especially on this one, it's way fast by Third Birthday. The first one, I would say, do a remake in the same vein of Resident Evil remake, not Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil remake. Put in new elements to the story, reanalyze the level of horror. You can dial down the RPG element and switch it to, because you can give a lot of info to people and at the same time give them jack shit, right? Mm-hmm. How many times when you're playing a like Resident Evil game, well, you don't play them, but
I played one, okay, and then one.
So you get journals in the first. There you go. You get journals in Resident Evil, right? They talk about these guys' isolated incidents, their stories. One journal that I remember pretty clearly in the cabin is a dude that slowly turns into a zombie and like is keeping a journal after he's been bit and stuff like that. Like you can totally do stories like that. So that way it's like sort of elaborating on what is going on to people and stuff like that. Like, oh, I'm transforming, my if we're using the rat example, my teeth are really coming into, like protruding and stuff like that. Like my eyes have turned bloodshot red, and no amount of clear eyes is going to fix it, whatever the case may be. And you can still do that story as a remake. I don't think Square has it in them to do a horror. So that's why part of me is like, I would love for them to reintroduce it as a horror with RPG elements, but I doubt it's going to work that way. I'm expecting a third-person shooter that has action elements, and there's just a lot of like Lovecraftian monsters that you fight. That's kind of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it probably would end up as an action game, which is a shame because that's neither of the genres it started out as. But I do think that's a little more marketable. Yeah, they could tone down the RPG elements. I wouldn't mind that much. Not get rid of them because that's kind of what makes it unique. But they could pull back a little bit, and they'd be all right. If it ups the horror, because that's really what it needs to be, and it doesn't quite achieve that. And I guess we can talk about our final thoughts here. Cool RPG. I don't know, this game, people talk about it like it's like a masterpiece. Like it's got like a large fan base.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I place it that high. Only because I think it tries a little too much. It's kind of a jack of all trades and like a master of none. It's not the best RPG I've played. It's certainly not the best horror game I played. And if we're talking about it as an action game, it's not the best action game I've played. It's like, I like what it did, and I'm glad that a game tried to do it, and it doesn't fail. I guess I can say that. I don't think it's a failure of a game at all, unless you're talking about a horror genre, and then in that case, I think it kind of is. It's just really, really interesting nugget on the PlayStation like list of games. Like, whoa, that's a unique game, and I'd say it's probably worth playing, but I wouldn't put it on like a top 10 list of anything. That's my thoughts. What about you?
So the I soured on the game towards the end, mainly due to the circumstances I was in. Not necessarily because I think the game's bad. It's kind of what I always say about games and difficulty. Like, well, not what I always say. Like I got it tattooed on my shoulder or something. But it's more of like the harder the difficulty is on a game, the more you see its imperfections. And if you could still come to appreciate that game even with its imperfections, then you're a diehard. You love that sort of concept or whatever the case is, right? Mm-hmm. And with so long as the game is like fair and rewards you accordingly or punishes you accordingly, I don't think it's a problem. I will say for this game, there's a lot of times that I was playing it and I felt like it was unwarranted where I was getting hit. Felt like it was unwarranted when there's certain systems in the game that I was unaware of. Like I didn't really change too much armor because I didn't really consider armor doing too much of anything. Like there were times where I was just like, dude, I'm taking the same damage regardless of the armor. I just got new armor and I'm taking more damage. What kind of shit is that? You know, like I thought these were better stats, but I feel like they don't do a good enough job of providing that.
As an RPG, there's not a lot of clarity around your stats.
The irony, they put the clarity in the story, but not the gameplay in a game. So, you know, whatever. But like, I definitely soured towards the end, but I would say up until about day 4, beating day 4, I was riding high. I was like, dude, this is solid. And the pacing was working out. Oh man, she attacked the police station. Oh, it sucks. Oh, hey, we got to go to the hospital now. It's a little bit more claustrophobic and spooky because Eve knows you're here and she's fucking with you. You know, like that's cool. I like that. But overall, as a game experience, I know I was texting you. I was like, hey, this feels better than Chrono Cross. I have dialed that back.
Wow.
After actually beating it, I'm like, I don't think it's better than Chrono Cross. I think it has its own place. I just don't think it's in that top 10 for me because Chrono Cross is still up there for me. Chrono Trigger happens to be higher now after our escapades,
no doubt.
But Chrono Cross is still up there for me. This game doesn't fit it, but it's not because I think it's a bad game. I just think it's a product of its time. They were trying to do something. They did the best they could. And sometimes it just doesn't pan out. Not everyone's Kojima where they reinvent the wheel. I created the stealth genre. That doesn't fucking happen. Right.
So, there's only so many genres you can create.
Name another Japanese RPG horror that actually puts Japanese. Japanese RPG, JRPG. Name another game that does that. Like there's not really any. You could say like, oh, these fan-made games that in RPG Maker or whatever, but that's not really an RPG, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really fit. There's not a lot. Maybe that's because you're trying to add peanut butter and mayonnaise together, or it's just because they don't click, but they didn't know it at the time. And they were making something to be different, to branch out there. It's 97. We're in RPG heaven, really.
Right.
Let's keep the train going.
You gotta appreciate the effort. Trying. Some people rate that higher. Some people say like I want everything to be different. And I guess in a way I can see that, but I also don't give it as many points for it.
Yeah.
Like in Star Wars The Last Jedi, people are like, I liked it. It was great because it was different. And I'm like, well, I like that it was trying to be different. I don't like that it sucked.
Yeah.
And it
doesn't translate to quality.
Yeah, it doesn't. You could praise them for trying something new, but it's really bad if you're praising them for failing. And I think I don't know if I would say this game is a failure, but like you said, it's got its place. It's nowhere in any top 10 list I'll ever make. It'll be in my top 10 JRPG horror games list. How about that?
Have fucking fun. I think I personally I'd put it in the top 20 like RPGs that I've played, but the more and more I do videos with you, the more I realize that other people are just overtaking each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I have definitely not skimped on the RPG genre, but there's been some that I've just been, I just haven't played, and playing them through with you and stuff like that, you realize there's some really good quality ones. There's ones that you can appreciate, such as Parasite Eve, but it doesn't necessarily translate to like a better overall experience. Right. And that's kind of really what we're saying at the end of the day. It's not like it's a bad game. It's just
it is what it is.
They straddled the line too much. Pick a direction at that point. You can never have it 50-50. In my opinion, a genre can't be 50-50. You can't have 50% horror movie, 50% action movie, because one's going to override the other.
You can have an RPG with horror elements, or you can have a horror game with RPG elements.
Exactly.
You can't have 1 foot in one and 1 foot in the other, because especially two disparate ones like that.
Because then what's the point of just having that solo genre then?
Right.
If 2 is always going to be better than 1, because you could just 50-50 it. 2 experiences are better than 1. No.
Nah.
No.
Not in this one.
Not in this one.
Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I know you've got some packing to do. You're heading out to have some fun, so I hope you enjoy yourself. Thank you for helping me out on this one.
Here I come. Huh?
It's been an absolute pleasure. Make sure you check out JD's channel, JustJD. Link is in the description below. And I guess we can consider Parasite Eve archived. Thanks for watching,
yes, we can.
everybody.
Oh,
yep.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you're waiting on. I was like, yep.
Archive, yeah.
Archive, yes, sir.
Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. And happy Halloween. Ooh.